Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 228. Without any delay, start explanation. Yunming looked at him with a slightly complicated gaze. I'm a very emotional person. Because of what happened to Enea, that's why I don't like you. Tang Wulin was stunned, but he could only respond with a bitter smile. Regarding Enea, his heart was also filled with regret. Yunming continued, when I take the academy into consideration, I know I shouldn't feel that way. This time, the effects of your military training on Demon Island were very good. I received word from them that your results even surpass most of your seniors. Tang Wulin made no reply. Is he praising me? Yunming paused as if he was pondering over something. However, it seemed like he did not have a conclusion. He waved his hand and said, You may leave. All right. Tang Wulin stood up hastily. After bowing to Yunming once again, he turned around and left. As he looked at Tang Wulin receding, Yunming sighed softly and massaged his brows. A small door on the side of the room opened. The Holy Spirit Douluo Yoli walked out from within. She moved behind Yunming and kneaded his shoulders lightly. You still can't make up your mind? This child is truly outstanding. With his temperament and abilities, he can surely shoulder great responsibilities. Yunming shook his head. I still don't like him. We'll see. Yoli sighed softly. Don't you push him too far away. A faint smile showed on Yunming's face. I'm not worried about that. He isn't only one of the Academy's Shrek 7 monsters, he's also a Tang sect fighter at the same time. My actions this time have violated the rules set by the Academy. Just think of it as putting him through additional trials. Arrange a meeting to inform the others that we'll consider Tang Wulin as a prospective Sea God Pavilion resident elder. But this information mustn't reach the outsiders, including Tang Wulin himself. Understood. Yunming stood up and held his wife's hand. Actually, I'm looking forward to the miracles that he might create in the future. The previous Sea God Pavilion masters had to endure countless cycles of hardship before they were finally able to shoulder the heavy responsibility. Yoli smiled. I like this child very much. I believe he can do it. According to the regulations set by the Academy, a person who passes all the trials on Demon Island is qualified to become a Sea God Pavilion resident elder. If the person manages to break the record as well, then the person will be the next Sea God Pavilion master. His results are obvious to all. Yunming smiled. I have my plans. Tang Wulin exited the Sea God Pavilion, but he still felt puzzled. Did the Sea God Pavilion master, Elder Yun, come to fetch him by the shore just to give him a few tips on the cultivation method of his soul power vortex? He could feel that Yunming had something to say but refrained himself. Nonetheless, he did not know what it was that Yunming wanted to say. In any case, Elder Yun seemed to have accepted him to some degree. This was good news. Tang Wulin returned home and carried everything which he had stored with him. Then he went to the wooden house where Scarlet Dragon Douluo Shuosha lived. Grand Teacher. Shuosha was basking in the yard. When one had achieved one's cultivation base, there was no longer a need to cultivate all the time. More time was spent on understanding the world. Instant enlightenment was the insight needed for a breakthrough. When Shuosha saw him, he was not shocked in the least. He smiled and asked, Did you meet the pavilion master? Tang Wulin answered curiously, You knew. Shuosha said with a smile. It's only natural that he finds you. Come and sit by your grand teacher's side, he said as he pointed at the seat beside him. Tang Wulin went beside Shuosha and sat down. Shuosha said, Tell me about your experiences during this trip. After he finished, he closed his eyes. There was nothing that Tang Wulin needed to hide from his grand teacher. He then recounted the encounters he had together with his comrades. From the incident on the Soul Express train fighting powerful evil soul masters to their arrival in the North Sea City and their horrendous experiences on the Demon Island, he narrated the whole story in detail. The only thing he left out was the Tang sect fighters' mission in which he had participated after his military training. Shuosha listened to him with his eyes closed. He only opened his eyes after Tang Wulin had finished his narration. Shuosha sighed softly and said, "The peace in the continent seems to be coming to its end. My generation is old. The responsibility of transforming and protecting the continent lies on the young shoulders of your generation." Tang Wulin looked at him with shock. "Grand teacher, is it really that serious?" Shuosha lowered his voice and said, "It's more serious than you imagine. There are some problems among the higher-ups of the Federation. Some of them are openly infighting themselves within the Federation. On the surface, the Federation is still calm and peaceful, but in truth, the infighting is quite serious. The incident of Heaven-Do City this time is a result of the infighting. As a Federation congressman, Mo Wu was a potential successor, but he died in the Holy Spirit cult's surprise attack. This escalated the conflict further among the members of the Congress. Although we can't be sure which congressman is affiliated to the Holy Spirit cult, there's no doubt there's an insider among the congressmen who protects them. Otherwise, there's no way that the Holy Spirit cult can hide while the Federation is powerless to act against a sect of the evil soul masters. It seems like we'll be having troubled times soon. The Federation isn't the only one facing problems. I've heard that there's also an inner conflict in Spirit Pagoda. Even on Star Luo Empire's side, the Green Skeleton Rebellion seemed to have received some form of support. Their war with the Star Luo Empire's officials is escalating. It seems that the entire Douluo Star is going through troubled times. Tang Wulin's brain was in overdrive thinking about it. However, he was as puzzled as ever. After all, he had only been a mere student of Shrek Academy. He was not too familiar with the continent's situation. He worked very hard and focused mainly on his cultivation. Shuosha said, "There's no need for you to trouble yourself with this matter yet. You'll at least have to wait after your graduation from the inner court before you're involved in any of this. But, you must remember, as the leader of this generation's Shrek 7 monsters, there's no way you can evade this responsibility. Shrek Academy has always been neutral, but that's during peaceful times. Once there's a threat that can cause upheavals on the continent and endanger the lives of common people, the Academy will take precautionary actions. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?" Tang Wulin nodded slightly. Without a doubt, Shrek Academy's heritage had for tens of thousands of years been deeply ingrained on Douluo continent. The outstanding graduates of the Academy were everywhere holding various influential posts on the continent. Once the Academy made a clarion call, the power it would amass was formidable. Shuosha raised a hand and pressed down on Tang Wulin's shoulder. "In the future, the pressure you'll be under will only increase. You'll then truly understand the benefits you've gained from your trip to the Demon Island. I only hope that the greater the pressure, the more motivated you will be. Come, tell me about the problems you faced while you were cultivating, including the Golden Dragon 9 moves." Tang Wulin stayed in Shuosha's wooden house until evening came. After Shuosha's instructions, he overcame all the problems that had surfaced recently. He stayed on Sea God's Island that night. He stayed in the wooden house you left him. He sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the clear and bright moonlight outside the window. Her beautiful face surfaced in his mind. He seemed to feel her presence. The silver dragon scale on his chest reflected the gentle moonlight's glow. He was sleepless during the night. The next day, Tang Wulin left the academy early in the morning. He had mentioned to Shuosha that he would be in Heaven-Do City for a month. He would go there and learn to forge from the divine craftsman, Junhua. His forging level had reached a crucial bottleneck currently. Once he could accomplish soul refinement, he would enter a new realm in the field of forging. As the youngest rank 6 blacksmith of the current forging world, once he achieved a breakthrough, he would have limitless possibilities in terms of forging. After he exited the academy, Tang Wulin did not go to the Soul Express train station to board the Soul train. He was genuinely afraid of Soul trains now, especially the route between Shrek City and Heaven-Do City. He had lost count of the incidents he had encountered on this route alone. For the safety of the passengers and himself, he decided that it was better not to board the Soul train. He arrived at the Battle Soul Hall of Tang Sect. Tang Wulin proceeded to redeem a Tang Sect fighter vehicle with his points. After his prior experience riding a fighter vehicle, Tang Wulin had taken a liking to this mode of transportation. Its high speed aside, it was very stable. The only shortcoming was that it had no special features. Even so, the equipment on the vehicle far surpassed other ordinary cars. As for his mecha, he had retrieved it already. Now, he only needed to wait for it to be upgraded. Mechas and cars were different after all. The Federation had strict regulations on mechas, especially during an emergency. Tang Wulin had a lot of fighter points. He still had a large balance after redeeming a Tang sect fighter vehicle. He stored the fighter vehicle in his storage ring and only released it after he was out the door. Unlike the fighter vehicle he rode the other day, he had redeemed one with 3 rows of seats. It was a Tang sect fighter vehicle that could carry 8 passengers at maximum capacity. Its speed was not as fast as the previous one, but it had better cross-country capabilities. There were 7 members among the Shrek 7 monsters. The extra seat was naturally kept for her. He drove the car and went on his way. The camouflage system on the Tang sect fighter vehicle was activated. The surface of the vehicle was covered by a layer of dark blue paint. Under low light, it appeared black. It showed a deep sapphire-like luster under the sun, and was extracted from a mineral. The color was known as cavensite blue. It was corrosion-resistant, and its application strengthened the metals. Some mechas also opted for these materials as their cover paint. Tang Wulin drove the Tang sect fighter vehicle and went on the highway at lightning speed. He was headed toward Heaven-Do City. The feeling between driving a vehicle and riding in one was different. Tang Wulin noticed that the Tang sect fighter vehicle was very stable and easy to control. He could easily attain the state of being one with the vehicle. Although it ran at high speeds, it was still stable. In merely 2 hours, the landmark of Heaven-Do City could already be seen from afar. It was not known if the Battle Soul Hall had arrested the evil soul masters from the Holy Spirit cult. The incident at the abandoned factory still weighed heavily on Tang Wulin's heart. The more he understood the Holy Spirit cult, the more he realized how threatening they were to society and the Federation at large. Those crooks must be dealt with as soon as possible. Tang Wulin exited the highway and drove onto the main road leading to Heaven-Do City. The situation was almost similar to the day before yesterday. There were still many victims on both sides of the road. However, they were being taken care of by the official agencies, and their numbers had decreased. He reckoned that the reconstruction work would take a long time. After all, the damage done was quite extensive. It was inevitable that the Federation harbored animosity toward the Holy Spirit cult. As he thought about this, Tang Wulin had already driven into the city center. There was order in the city as police cars were prevalent throughout. If the police cars were truly effective, there would not have been a surprise attack. Tang Wulin sighed inwardly. In any case, it was better than nothing. At the very least, the city folks would be at ease. Heaven-Do City's Blacksmiths Association remained as the headquarters of the Blacksmiths Association. Tang Wulin drove his car near the building and stopped after he made a turn into an alley. He alighted from the vehicle and stored it into his storage ring and walked toward the Blacksmiths Association. He made it as far as the door before he stopped in his tracks. It was not that he did not want to go in, but the main entrance of the Blacksmiths Association was jam-packed like a can of sardines. Hand over the murderers! Hand over the murderers! There were at least 1,000 people blocking the entrance to the Blacksmiths Association as they shouted madly. The more agitated folks even picked up stones and began tossing them at the Blacksmiths Association. A yellow tape was pulled across the association's doors. There were policemen stationed behind the yellow tapes trying to maintain order. It was quite obvious that they would soon be overwhelmed by the frenzied crowd. Tang Wulin was shocked by the scene. He pulled a guy on the periphery aside and was informed by the guy that the Blacksmiths Association was in deep trouble. According to the surveillance displays, before the surprise attack on Heaven-Do City occurred, at least a dozen of the terrorists who detonated the fixed soul ammunition were last seen heading into the Blacksmiths Association. For a big city such as Heaven-Do City, soul surveillance cameras practically monitored all the major streets. That was why the terrorists were caught on camera. Even though there was no evidence that the Blacksmiths Association was related to the Holy Spirit cult, the footage was leaked by someone who had an agenda. The upset citizens of Heaven-Do City had found a scapegoat and came to the Blacksmiths Association. The Blacksmiths Association's headquarters had been besieged for many days. The main doors were shut tight currently. There was no question that the incident had dealt a great blow to the reputation of the Blacksmiths Association. Tang Wulin's brows were tightly knitted together. He trusted his uncle master completely. How could the Blacksmiths Association possibly have any relationship with the evil soul masters? Moreover, how could the surveillance footage be so easily accessed by the public? At the very least, it should not have been made public before the investigation was completed. When he analyzed the situation calmly, it was obvious that someone had an intention to frame the Blacksmiths Association. Tang Wulin could still vividly recall the assassination of his uncle master. Without a doubt, the assassination was related to the Holy Spirit cult. As the only divine craftsman on the continent, his uncle master was a thorn in their side because he would not take instructions from the Holy Spirit cult. Hence, it was better for them to dispose of him. The majority of the citizens were driven by their emotions, especially those who had lost their loved ones. It was tough for them to control their emotions. It was especially true when the Heaven-Do City's administrative building was blown up. Almost all the high-ranking city administrative officials died. The new, inexperienced officials blundered as they tried to handle the incident. Who would be in the position to defend the Blacksmiths Association? It was under such circumstances that the pressure on the Blacksmiths Association grew. What should he do? Tang Wulin's gaze reflected he was deep in thought. Since he came to know of the problem, he had to think of a way to assist his uncle master. He was in no hurry to enter the Blacksmiths Association. Instead, he went to an inconspicuous corner and observed silently. There were probably 1,000 citizens gathered here, and their emotions were running high while they lingered in the vicinity. They had been here for days creating such scenes. Most of the glass windows on the side of the Blacksmiths Association's building were shattered. What was their objective for making such a scene? If one wanted to handle an incident, one must first analyze it calmly. This was what old Demon Sloth taught Tang Wulin. His notion was, the most brilliant people in the world are the laziest because only the lazy ones will think of ways to conserve time and effort. If one did things recklessly when faced with a situation, one would only be wasting time and effort. Only by focusing on a target and achieving victory in one fell swoop could one conserve time and energy. Only then would one have more time to do other things, for instance, sleep. Tang Wulin did not completely agree with old Demon Sloth's statement. Nonetheless, he learned a lot from him on how to go about doing things. Previously, he would not have any idea on what he should do. He could only go in to look for his master uncle and ask about the Blacksmiths Association's current situation. However, he was much calmer now than he was before. He remained at the hidden corner and observed each and every citizen present who was causing havoc. With his Spirit Abyss Realm spiritual cultivation base, he could easily scrutinize a person in detail. The first thing he did was to ascertain whether there were any soul masters amidst the crowd. There was not a single soul master to be found among the troublemakers. They were all ordinary people. However, he did not give up. Instead, he continued his surveillance. After a while, Tang Wulin noticed that there were a few leaders among the citizens who were making a scene. Each time the shouting citizens took a breather, the leaders would voice out their protests and set off a new wave of uproars. There were 16 of them. They distributed themselves throughout the area occupied by the 1,000-strong group. Tang Wulin also noticed that these people wore advanced microcommunicators on their ears. Tang Wulin was quite familiar with this tool's value. It was not something an ordinary person could afford or would want to buy. When he concluded his findings, they did not mean a thing when viewed individually, but collectively, a number of things could be proven. Tang Wulin had no need for detailed evidence. He turned around and left. He walked toward the darker areas of the street. Hand over the murderers. Punish the Blacksmiths Association, shouted the citizens at the top of their voices. Bring the president of the Blacksmiths Association out here to give us an explanation. The members of the Blacksmiths Association should be sent to the guillotine. You band of evil soul masters should just die. Shouts of curses punctuated the air. Suddenly, a figure charged into the crowd quick as lightning. He appeared in an instant. A formless energy was unleashed from his body. Wherever he passed, the crowd was being pushed aside. A yellow cloak and a yellow mask. He wore a Tang sect yellow fighter's badge on his chest. He raised a hand and grabbed someone from the crowd who was shouting for justice to be served to the murderers. Shortly after, without waiting for the crowd to react, he suddenly shouted, "There's no way you can run." Circles of soul rings shone brightly on his body. There were 8 rings in total. 2 yellows, 2 purples, and 4 blacks. The extremely domineering aura erupted from his body. Gigantic bluish-golden vines which appeared like huge dragons shot out with a whistle. They shot into the skies at first, then they plunged into the crowds. They wrapped themselves firmly around their targets whom they had locked onto earlier. The 1,000-odd people shrieked hysterically because of the sudden, shocking turn of events. The Tang sect's Battle Soul Hall is capturing the evil soul masters of the Holy Spirit cult. There's no need to be alarmed. A stunning, spiritual force of the Golden Dragon roar was contained within Tang Wulin's voice. He managed to suppress the surprised shouts of the crowd in no time. The policeman behind the yellow tape ran quickly toward him. When they saw Tang Wulin's attire, the fighter's badge on his chest, and the soul rings on his body, they stopped in their tracks abruptly and went no further. Although soul technology was advanced on the continent, the social standing of soul masters was not as grand as it was 10,000 years ago. However, on Douluo continent, being a soul master was still the noblest profession. It had not changed since the old days. Everyone's martial soul would awaken when they were 6 years old. Everyone prayed and wished that they would be able to become a soul master. A majority of them would return home with their hopes crushed, but in their hearts, the status of soul masters remained the same from the beginning till the end. When they saw an 8-ring soul Douluo and felt his powerful strength and imposing manner, apart from being shocked and frightened, they were filled with even more curiosity. High-ranking soul masters were not a common sight. This was an 8-ring soul Douluo, a person who would be considered among the top soul masters in the entire continent. In addition, he was also from Tang sect, but was he a Tang sect fighter as well? Not everyone knew about the Tang sect's Battle Soul Hall, but those who knew understood that the Federation's War God Hall and the Tang sect's Battle Soul Hall were both famous organizations of soul masters on the continent. Their combined strengths were extremely powerful. Tang sect had been around for 20,000 years. It had a reputable social standing. Tang sect's founding ancestor, Tang San, was an outstanding personality of his generation. The other equally outstanding person was Spirit Pagoda's founder, Spirit Ice Douluo, Yu Hao, who was from Tang sect also. Compared to mere soul masters, Tang sect was more of an enigma and had an elitist nobility to them. That was why when Tang Wulin revealed his identity, the resentment of the rioting citizens was somewhat subdued. What right do you have to grab me? We're just here for an explanation from the Blacksmiths Association. Even if you're from Tang sect, you can't just go around accusing good people. Despite being held by Tang Wulin, the guy was still trying to talk his way out. He's clearly sent by the Blacksmiths Association. Everyone, don't believe anything he says. Further away, one of the culprits who was snared by the blue-silver emperor vines also clamored. Tang Wulin laughed coldly. I'll tell you soon why I'm grabbing hold of you and your friends. First, I have a question to ask everyone. Does anyone recognize this person whom I have in my grasp right now? Although these dozen men were clamoring for attention, the dazzling glow from Tang Wulin's soul rings had a calming effect on the crowd such that their emotions were not as riled as they were before. A citizen who stood near Tang Wulin said, I don't. He doesn't look familiar. Tang Wulin lowered his voice and said, these dozen men were the ones who made the most noise just now. Heaven-Do City has been struck by a great calamity. In fact, this should be when everyone should work together to overcome this tragedy. Instead, they instigated everyone to come and create trouble here. The criminals who launched the surprise attack did come to the Blacksmiths Association, but let's think about this calmly. Does their arrival at the Blacksmiths Association mean that they are from the Blacksmiths Association? Don't you think the culprits know about the surveillance systems in Heaven-Do City? If we infer further, if these criminals visited a restaurant or stayed in a hotel, does this mean that the restaurant or the hotel is now their accomplice? There are some among you who may be running a business. If they've been to your premises, does this also mean that you're an accomplice of theirs? These people whom I have arrested were stirring up everyone's emotions intentionally. It's at crucial times like now, when our collective strength is needed to overcome the disaster and to rebuild homes, we need to ask ourselves the motive for creating such scenes. As he said this, Tang Wulin plucked out a micro-communicator from the person's ear. Look, everyone. What's this? This is a micro-communicator. It's not cheap. It costs 30,000 Federation coins per set. And the one this person has is a high-end model. Its anti-jamming feature is amazing, which would cost another 50 to 60,000 Federation coins. May I ask, as an ordinary citizen, would you have any need for such a thing? You can check for yourselves and find it in the ears of these men whom I have arrested. See if there are such communicators. The citizens had by now turned into a hubbub of voices. The more inquisitive among them quickly found the communicators in the ears of the captured men and held up the devices for everyone to see. There really is. They look like the same model. Tang Wulin smiled faintly. The die was cast. They instigated everyone to come make a scene here. Their intentions should be condemned. In my opinion, they are the ones who are highly suspect to be accomplices of the criminals. I'll hand them over to the police later. We'll get to the truth after a thorough interrogation. I know everyone's upset after Heaven-Do City was hit by such a serious disaster. This is precisely why we shouldn't commit acts that aggrieve those dear to us and support the enemy instead. As he said this, Tang Wulin retracted his soul rings. At the same time, he gestured at the policemen. With the help of the crowd, they gathered these dozen ashen-faced men. No, I'm not a criminal, I'm not a criminal. Someone gave me money to create havoc and lead everyone here to make a scene. A troublemaker with a weaker disposition finally broke down. Everyone knew what the consequences were if they were found guilty as the criminals of the terror attack. When one of them broke down, the resistance of the others started to waver as well. The crowd around them fell into an uproar. With such a favorable outcome, Tang Wulin had achieved his objective. While the police were handling the matter, Tang Wulin seized the opportunity to slip out of the crowd silently. He made a detour and went straight to the Blacksmiths Association's back door. At the same time, he dialed Zhenhua's number. The telephone rang, and Zhenhua's hearty laugh reached Tang Wulin's ears. I knew it was you. Since when did you learn the disguise skill? When I saw you releasing the 8 soul rings, I was startled. Huh? You knew that was me, said Tang Wulin with shock. Zhenhua smiled and said, you little rascal. All right, come in and talk. I've sent someone down to fetch you. He was still talking when the back door opened. A familiar-looking person was at the door, but Tang Wulin could not remember the person's name. Tang Wulin hastily went in. He was slightly shocked. From the tone of his voice on the communicator, Uncle Master's mood seemed to be good. Could it be that he was unmoved regardless of the state of things outside? If so, he needed to redress his attitude. They took the elevator and went to the floor where Zhenhua was on. When he entered Zhenhua's office, Tang Wulin was startled. The divine craftsman Zhenhua was not alone in his office. There were as many as 6 other people. There was another person whom Tang Wulin was familiar with. It was his other teacher, body sex master, Mu Yi. When he saw Tang Wulin, Mu Yi could not help deriding him. You little brat, you've wrecked our plans the moment you returned. If you hadn't unleashed your blue-silver grass, I wouldn't even recognize that it's you. Teacher, Uncle Master. Tang Wulin was slightly puzzled. Apart from these two, the others, 2 males and 2 females, were seated in the office. They looked middle-aged. One of the middle-aged men said helplessly, we had quite a good sting operation, now it's all for naught. Tang Wulin suddenly understood what was happening. He said with shock, are you saying that the people making a scene down there were arranged by you? Zhenhua laughed hysterically. Not really. We aren't that bored. We're only beating them at their own game. The Holy Spirit cult found some lay people to make a scene. Their objective is clearly to draw me out there to launch a surprise attack on me. The ones launching the surprise attack on me will most probably be some high-ranking members of the Holy Spirit cult. We're just cooperating with their acting. When the crowd reaches our main entrance or even barge through the locked doors, that's the time I'll go out. But all this has now been foiled by you, you little brat. When they see the appearance of a Soul Douluo, even if they wanted to fight me, they'd surely have changed their plans. After hearing Jinhua's words, Tang Wulin could not help but smile bitterly. Apparently old Ginger was hotter than new. He thought that he had settled everything perfectly, but he did not expect this to be a trap set by his Uncle Master and the others for the Holy Spirit cult. Jinhua erased the grin on his face. The incident is very serious now. I never expected the Holy Spirit cult to be as bold as this. Wulin, you've also been away for such a long time. How was the military training the academy sent you to participate in? Tang Wulin felt that it was inappropriate for him to divulge too much in front of this crowd. He only said, I learnt a lot from it. Didn't I come to see you right away after I had returned? Jinhua nodded. Here, let me introduce you to everyone. As he said this, he pointed to two middle-aged women and said, these two are from the Battle God Hall. They are both battle gods. Tang Wulin was not completely clueless as to the Battle Soul Hall. There was a total of 18 battle gods in the hall, and they were its mainstays. The 18 battle gods were all experts holding the rank of title Douluo. They took orders directly from the Federation's parliament. It was said that the Battle God Hall had combat strength which surpassed even the 18 battle gods. As to what that superior combat strength was, Tang Wulin had no idea. The two middle-aged women did not appear too extraordinary. With Jinhua's introduction, Tang Wulin learned that one of them was Tang Liyue, and the other was Zhu Xian. Tang Liyue's title was Ice Moon, while Zhu Xian's was Morning Cat. They were truly both title Douluos. Jinhua pointed to another middle-aged man and said, this is Heaven Saint Douluo, Xu Shengchuan from the Spirit Pagoda. While he spoke, Jinhua was clearly more serious than when he was introducing the two battle goddesses from Battle God Hall before this. Tang Wulin hastily said, greetings, Your Eminence. Xu Shengchuan looked at Tang Wulin with piqued interest and nodded toward him. Jinhua smiled and said, Brother Xu is one of the current 4 great spiriters of the Spirit Pagoda. Tang Wulin's heart skipped a beat. He knew much more about the Spirit Pagoda than the Battle God Hall. Spirit Pagoda's organization was quite compact. When the Federation's parliament was formed back then, they had imitated the structure of the Spirit Pagoda's upper echelons. Spirit Pagoda had 36 elders. In the beginning, the posts of the elders were held by individuals of power from all sides, but with the development of the times and the Spirit Pagoda's increasing importance on the continent, it gradually turned into an independent body. Even so, the Spirit Pagoda still had a council of 36 elders who would handle all important decisions. There were a few superior officers above the council. This included the Spirit Pagoda Master, 2 Vice Pagoda Masters, and 4 Spiriters. They made up 42 members in total, and they collectively formed the superior officers of the organization. The Spirit Pagoda was a relatively democratic organization. Even the Pagoda Master could not do as he wished. However, the Pagoda Master had the right to veto, which was the greatest power he held. The Vice Pagoda Master and Spiriters had 2 votes each, which was only 1 vote less than the Pagoda Master's 3 votes. Every council elder had 1 vote. Whenever there was an important decision to be made, it was the time for a collective vote to be done. For the 2 Vice Pagoda Masters and the 4 Spiriters, they had to have made some sort of great contribution to Spirit Pagoda to be elected. However, the more important thing was that they represented Spirit Pagoda's peak combat strength. They were masters that were at least of Hyper Douluo rank. In other words, the cultivation base of this Heaven Saint Douluo Luo Xingchuan before him had exceeded even the body sect's master, Mu Yi. As for his overall combat strength, Jinhua's turned his attention to the last person. From his expression, Tang Wulin could make out some element of respect. With Jinhua's status as the divine craftsman of the generation on the continent, It was a shock for Tang Wulin to see him displaying reverence for someone else. Just how esteemed was this person? He was not the only one. Even Mu Yi beside him, when his gaze fell onto this last person, displayed a strange countenance. What Tang Wulin saw on his face was terror. Without a doubt, both Shenhua and Mu Yi, they could shake the four seas with a stomp of their feet. It was unimaginable for someone to be able to elicit such reactions from them. The middle-aged man had a slender build. His was handsome, with beautiful and gentle eyes and long lashes just like Tang Wulin. Although he seemed to be in his 40s, he was still filled with the worldly charisma of a middle-aged man. Sitting there, he did not release a strong, imposing aura, nor did he attract as much attention as the others before him. However, when Tang Wulin's gaze fell on him, he could not help but feel compelled. Zhenhua said, "Wulin, I should tell you, this man is somehow related to you." "Related to me?" said Tang Wulin in astonishment. The middle-aged man beamed at him, revealing his white teeth. "I think I'll introduce myself. I'm Zongxin. We're both from the Tang sect." Zongxin? This name was undoubtedly alien to Tang Wulin. If they had something in common, it would be that there were more strokes to the characters of their names. Zhenhua said, "Senior Zong is the Tang sect Douluo Hall's Vice Hall Master. His title is Amorous." When Zongxin heard his own title, he immediately coughed twice. He seemed to be embarrassed. Zhenhua quickly stopped, then he said awkwardly, "My apologies. I've forgotten that you don't like your title being mentioned." Currently, Tang Wulin was oblivious to Zongxin's feelings toward his own title. He was completely astounded by the words, Douluo Hall. He was very familiar with the Tang sect's inner structure. There were 3 inner halls and 3 outer halls. He was a member of one of the 3 inner halls, the Battle Soul Hall. In order, the 3 inner halls were the Worship Hall, the Battle Soul Hall, and the Enforcement Hall. However, there was another higher power above these 3 within the Tang sect, and that was the Douluo Hall. It was said that only the devotees of the Worship Hall could possibly be promoted to the Douluo Hall. The Douluo Hall's master was the current Tang sect master. Amazingly, the person before him was the Douluo Hall's Vice Hall master. That meant that there was no one above him but the sect master. After he had gone to the Star Luo Empire, Tang Wulin knew very well that not only did the Tang sect have much influence on the Douluo continent, its status was even higher on Star Luo continent. Zhenhua had referred to Xu Xingchuan as Brother Xu, but he called this Amorous Douluo Zongxin Senior Zong. The difference between these two was great. Without a doubt, this Amorous Douluo was not as young as he appeared. "Sai, it's all the Hall Master's fault for giving me such a title back then. I'll be embarrassed for life. Wulin, you don't have to call me Your Eminence or anything like that, and there's also no need to call me by my title. Just call me Old Zong." This Douluo Hall Vice Hall Master had an easy, amicable tone to him. He always had a smile on his face, but Tang Wulin dared not do what he suggested. He hastily said with respect, "Tang Wulin pays the Vice Hall Master his respects." Zongxin friends grinned. "This is our first time meeting each other. Let me give you a gift." When he said this, he raised a hand and a small object flew at Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin hastily caught it and found it to be a small round plate. The plate was exquisitely made, and there was clearly a soul circuit contained within it. It looked to be very beautiful on the outside. One side was blue while the other was red. The word, Tang, was carved onto both sides. Tang sect's Ice Fire Seal. The other 5 title Douluos, including Xu Shengchuan, exclaimed in shock. Even the 2 women, Ice Moon Douluo Tang Liyue and Morning Cat Douluo Zhu Xian, displayed admiration on their faces. They seemed to be unable to contain themselves. Tang sect's Ice Fire Seal? Even though Tang Wulin was a Tang sect disciple, he did not know what this was. However, he was clever. He immediately bowed deeply and, with respect, said, "Many thanks to the Vice Hall Master for the gift." He did not have the courage to refer to Zongxin as Old Zong. Zongxin smiled. "It's nothing. This was given to you by the Hall Master through me. I'm just doing a favor without troubling myself." Whatever you received is what you deserved. Hall Master? The Hall Master knows about me. The identity of the current Tang sect Douluo Hall's Master was unknown to most of the title Douluos, leave alone Tang Wulin. Only a few of the continent's elites knew the identity of this mysterious Hall Master. Zongxin said, when you are free, do come and visit the Douluo Hall, and bring the Tang sect Ice Fire Seal with you. There'll be someone there to teach you how to use it. Keep it well. If you lose it, then you'll also lose this opportunity. Understood, Tang Wulin responded respectfully. He then went and stood behind Mu Yi and Zhenhua. There was no doubt that everyone present here were his seniors. This was no place for him to sit down. Zhenhua said with a grin, I was thinking that with Senior Zong assuming personal command this time, we might just be able to catch a big fish, but I didn't expect our plans to be unintentionally foiled by Wulin. Everyone, why don't we have lunch first? Mu Yi, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you again. All right, Mu Yi responded curtly, then glanced at Tang Wulin. Young man, come and assist me. Zongxin's lips cracked into a faint smile as he watched Mu Yi take Tang Wulin into the kitchen. Someone from the body sect finally got wise. He's very lucky as well. Zhenhua laughed as he said, I'm also very surprised. I didn't expect the Tang sect to value Tang Wulin that much. Frankly, I, too, think highly of this child. I heard from Mu Chen that he's already close to the rank of Saint Craftsman already. I think that he's going to consult me on information about that soon. Saint Craftsman? How old is he? Xu Shengchuan spoke in astonishment. Zhenhua boastfully replied, Nature has greatly blessed the boy. There are no blacksmiths with the potential for heavenly refinement on the continent, except him. What was the significance of heavenly refinement? Everybody else could see that Zhenhua was saying this because he was too shy to brag about himself. Tang Liyue and Zhu Shui matched each other's gaze. Radiance flashed in the depths of the two women's eyes. Zongxin always seemed to be beaming. The Tang sect values him more than any of you can imagine. Hence, everyone please don't speculate about him. His words were of course not meant for Zhenhua. The Blacksmiths Association and Soul Masters did not have any conflict but instead complemented each other. However, the Spirit Pagoda and the Battle Soul Hall's relationship was quite different. Tang Liyue spoke with a grin on her face, Senior Zong, you can't protect your boy too much. Those of us from the War God Hall have never discriminated against him. He's a Tang sect disciple, but he can join the War God Hall as well to serve the Federation. Zongxin remained smiling but he declined to comment. Xu Xinchuan was about to say something, but he thought better of it after he caught a glimpse of the cheery Amorous Douluo. He dared not overstep his boundaries in this man's presence, even though he himself was one of the 6 highest-ranking members of the Spirit Pagoda. Amorous Douluo may be the Vice Hall Master of Douluo Hall, but it was very clear that this man was not that different from the Douluo Hall's master. He was also a man standing at the pinnacle of the world. Spirit Pagoda's master once said that the opponent he was most unwilling to confront on the continent was not Shrek Academy's Atlas Douluo, but the 2 great Hall Masters of the Tang sect. It showed that his estimation of these 2 Hall Masters was exceedingly high. In the kitchen, Mu Yi's expression seemed to have relaxed slightly as soon as he closed the door. He suddenly raised his hand and patted Tang Wulin on the shoulder. Tang Wulin was aware of what Mu Yi was about to do, so, of course, he would not dodge. He allowed Mu Yi's palm to smack his shoulder. He felt his shoulder became heavier as a tremendous force burst out instantly. Tang Wulin had not met Mu Yi for an even longer time than Zhenhua. He had never seen his teacher ever since he returned from the Star Luo continent. Mu Yi was slightly stunned for a moment. He had already considered the fact that Tang Wulin's strength would grow, which was why he was applying so much pressure on his shoulder. Even so, he did not at all expect that Tang Wulin would not have any reaction to his slap. Tang Wulin sniggered. Mu Yi raised his brows as his lips cracked into a spurious smile. The palm pressing against Tang Wulin's shoulder abruptly exerted more strength. Tang Wulin washed the potatoes. Teacher, shall I peel the skin? The corners of Mu Yi's mouth twitched as his heart filled with shock. Even a Soul Sage Strength-type Soul Master would certainly fail to withstand the force he had just applied, yet his disciple was unbothered. How is this possible? He did not continue because he could already see the floorboard underneath Tang Wulin's feet was cracking. Perhaps Tang Wulin would be able to endure an even greater amount, but the floorboard would not withstand any more. Little brat, what have you eaten? How did your strength increase so much? Tang Wulin shrugged. Teacher, that's a secret. However, my strength has already increased 100,000 kilograms since last time. Moreover, I can feel that it's still growing. As the body sect's master, Mu Yi had always been filled with pride about his body's strength. Even though he had yet to break through to Hyper Douluo level, he was always under the assumption that his physical power was on the same level as a limit Douluo. However, he found himself astonished when he witnessed his disciple with less than a 5-ring cultivation base. Going by Tang Wulin's development speed, he was afraid that his disciple's strength could exceed his own. My boy, you're impressive. I'll teach you the body sect's body refining method later. With strength as great as yours, you must learn how to transfer it. Transfer? Tang Wulin looked at Mu Yi in surprise. Mu Yi spoke flatly, you have 100,000 kilograms worth of strength, so how much can you wield without getting near your opponent? Tang Wulin answered, I'd need to combine it with a throwing weapon, or with my martial soul or soul skill in order to use it more effectively. Mu Yi shook his head. Strength is a portion of energy as well. Your bloodline soul skill or your martial soul skill are not conflicting it. It's like you have a buried treasure but don't know how to dig right now. On the other hand, our body sect's body refining method is just what you need to excavate your treasure. However, you must also not to be overly obsessed with your strength because soul power cultivation is still the foundation. Only with great soul power will you be able to cultivate twice the result with half the effort. Your teacher was too absorbed in his strength back in those years, besides focusing too much attention to studying mecha afterward. Because of this, I couldn't even break through to Hyper Douluo rank up till now. Yes. Tang Wulin nodded sincerely. Mu Yi's words came from the bottom of his heart. Tang Wulin understood how much the situation affected him just by looking at his expression. In reality, Mu Yi was the body sect's prodigy of his generation in his youth. He was reputed to be the one most likely to reach the rank of his predecessor. However, it became troublesome for his teacher to educate him, as he soon exceeded his teacher's power. In addition, he had so many hobbies that he missed the best period to cultivate his soul power. Otherwise, he might have become a limit Douluo given his natural abilities. Mu Yi was preparing the ingredients when he was said, have you ever met that Amorous Douluo before? Tang Wulin shook his head. Mu Yi spoke, the Tang sect has truly left me speechless. I didn't expect that they'd value you so highly. Build a good relationship with these few people if you have the opportunity. They have exceedingly high positions within the Tang sect. In reality, their words were more influential than the Douluo Hall's master on many occasions. The Tang sect ice fire seal given by him is an extremely lucky item, so you must hold onto it tightly. Tang Wulin asked in curiosity, Teacher, what's the ice fire seal actually? Why is everybody so shocked by it? Mu Yi spoke with a deep voice, the Tang sect has a history that is much longer than our body sect. As far back as when the sect's first ancestor, Tang San, dominated the continent, the Tang sect discovered a land of plenty. More precisely, it was discovered by the Thousand Hands Douluo Tang San. This land was well hidden, and it was said to be heavily guarded by obstacles and poisons. However, the inside was birthing many of the finest heaven and earth treasures. I'm not especially familiar with the real situation, but you only need to know that these two great talents, Tang San and Hui Yuhao, benefited from this treasured land. Tang Wulin was even more curious about the ice fire seal when he heard this. However, it was quite apparent that Mu Yi did not understand the true state of affairs either. Mu Yi spoke, use the Tang sect ice fire seal as soon as you can after you've returned. I believe that Amorous Douluo's guidance will never lead you astray. Oh, right. Don't get too close to him. Tang Wulin was slightly confused, for Mu Yi was just advising him to befriend Amorous Douluo, yet why did he ask him not to get too close to the man 1 minute later? Mu Yi's gaze appeared slightly odd. A wave of gentle energy was radiating from his body as he surrounded Tang Wulin and himself and isolated everything on the outside. Do you know what the title of the Tang Sect's Douluo Hall's current Hall Master is? Mu Yi asked. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.